All right. Well, thank you all for your patience and welcome to the Monroe County EQS Roadway Improvement Projects meeting. Meeting's finally going to begin. Let me get this little screen out of the way. Oop, that's not what I want to see. Okay. So for the people online, is this not on? Is this on? Okay, now you can hear. Okay. If you experience, the people online, I have to say this out loud, sorry. If you experience technical difficulties, contact Nancy Ortega at 304-741-3738, or you can email her at nancy.ortega@exp.com so she can assist you. That's nancy.ortega@exp.com. All right, so we're going to go through a few housekeeping rules of engagement, and you'll meet the team. We'll give an overview of all the projects. We'll talk specifically about each project, and then we'll have a Q&A. So this meeting is being recorded, and our presentation will be followed by a Q&A session. So you should have, if you want to speak, you'll need to fill out a speaker card, and the reason for that is we also do have people online who may want to speak, so we'll be alternating those. And there is a microphone over here. That's where you'll need to come up because, again, people are online. The only way they'll be able to hear you is if you speak into that microphone. If you don't feel like talking tonight, we do have forms over here for comments. You can either fill it out and drop it in the box, or you can take it home and mail it back to us. And you, of course, will have all of my information, contact information after as well. So participants will have 3 minutes to ask questions and provide comments. If you are listening via telephone, you may provide comments by calling or texting Nancy Ortega at 304-741-3738 or email her at nancy.ortega@exp.com. Tonight's presentation will also be available at FDOTmonroe.com, which some of you may have already viewed. It'll be under the projects, and then on the left-hand side, there's a menu. I forgot to mention, if you need a speaker card, if you didn't already get one at the front, Michelle over here has some, and make sure she gets them before we get to that session. We'll make sure we collect them too. Online attendees, you will remain muted throughout the meeting. During the question and answer session, use the raise hand button on your GoToWebinar panel to comment. When it is your turn, you will be unmuted. Provide your full name first, your address, and comment. Online attendees are also welcome to submit questions or comments using the GoToWebinar question panel. That's the little red box on the right, and a member of the team will respond during the open discussion. Participants will have 3 minutes to ask questions and provide comments. The Florida Department of Transportation is required to comply with various non-discrimination laws and regulations, including Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Public participation at this meeting is solicited without regard to race, color, national origin, age, sex, religion, disability, or family status. Persons wishing to express their concerns about Title VI may do so by contacting District 6 Title VI Coordinator, Nicholas Danu, PE, at 305-470-5219, or in writing, FDOT 1000 Northwest 111th Avenue, Miami, Florida 33172. Or you can email nicholas.danu@dotstate.fl.us. That's NICHOLAS.DANU@dot.state.fl.us. State Title VI Coordinator is Stefan Kulikowski at 805-414-4742, or in writing to the Equal Opportunity Office, 605 Sewanee Street, MS 65, Tallahassee, Florida 32399. Email is Stefan Kulikowski at dot.state.fl.us. That's STEFAN.KULAKOWSKI at dot.state.fl.us. Before I introduce the construction team here, I want to recognize Commissioner Jim Scholl in the audience there. Thank you for coming out, County Commissioner Jim Scholl. And if we have any online elected officials, if you would push the raise your hand button so we could recognize you as well. No hand? Okay, all right. So the construction project team, first up, FDOT Project Manager George Hoffman, PE. I'm going to hand it over to him.
A little bit taller than Julie. Good evening, and thank you all for being here. It's an important part of our construction and design process and getting to this point. Also, thank you to Monroe County and the City of Key West. I see Gary back there. Gary, thank you for your help on this project and all the other projects that we have down here. As Julie said, I'm George Hoffman, Construction Senior Project Manager for the department. And with me today, I have the construction project team, including Julie. Tony Sabak, he's the consultant project manager. He's responsible for our Monroe County projects, including this one. Hector Rodriguez, he's a senior project engineer. He's the main guy and responsible charge of this project, managing the day-to-day operations, the contractor, his team, and just making sure we're building this job right. The two main guys that he has with him is Eddie Jimenez. Eddie's a project engineer, and Felix Rodriguez, who made it here with us tonight. He's a project administrator. And then once again, Julie, she's going to be an integral part of our construction team, helping us out with all of you and holding us accountable to following up when we need to. I'm sure you all have a lot of questions now that hopefully we can get addressed, but certainly during construction, things also come up, and we will be coordinating directly with you for specific impacts. Also, part of our extended project team is a contractor. The prime contractor is General Asphalt Corporation. Don't normally reach down to the first tier subcontractors, but we do have the local Charlie Tapino and Sons. Both of those names might be familiar to some of you, if not all of you. We have a great working relationship with both of those teams, and they'll be leading a large majority of the efforts down here. So we call this it's really one contract with a grouping of projects. You'll see listed here 4. The first bullet there has a -9, so that's kind of two projects in one. That project is State Road A1A, South Roosevelt Boulevard, from Bertha Street to the end of Smathers Beach. I think a lot of you all might be here for that, but we also have the second project listed here, which is Whitehead Street. That's one of the second largest projects that we have in this contract. The next project is South Roosevelt Boulevard. That's over there by the triangle. That's from Go Lane to North Roosevelt Boulevard, State Road 5, US 1. And lastly, the project a bit further away, that's the frontage road along US 1. That'll be the last project that we review tonight. So project schedule and cost, we are starting very shortly, January 30, 2023. The construction duration 800 days. That asterisk might scare you. That's there to advise everyone that the schedule could change due to weather or holidays, other unforeseen circumstances. But it is important to note that aside from that asterisk, we do have an incentive to complete this project in that 800-day period. So that maximum incentive is $580,000. And so that construction end date would be the spring of 2025. And the total estimated construction costs for this project of this contract is $28.4 million. And this is a graphical overview. It's important to note those 3 blue lines that you see crossing South Roosevelt. Those are the 3 pedestrian hybrid beacons or HAWK crossings that we'll be installing as part of this project to safely get pedestrians across the street to and from the beach and their destinations on the north side. So this is the South Roosevelt and a large majority of this contract that shares the same 800-day schedule because it is a large majority of the contract. So the same spring 2025 date and 23.3 approximately $1 million. It's important to note that we did develop this in coordination. Well, it was really an effort led by the city of Key West through a lab project, but they worked hand in hand with our team in design to bring you this project. So we thank you for that, City of Key West. And it is important to note that this is a resiliency project. We are raising the road up to 17.5 inches in a couple of locations, but we are raising overall and providing significant improvement to the drainage, which I'm sure you've seen throughout the project corridor. And again, the schedule may change, but we're trying to wrap this up in 800 days. So as I said, the project scope includes raising the roadway in some areas up to 17.5 inches, repairing and closing retaining wall gaps, a large portion there on by South or by Bertha Street. There was also some damage from the hurricane that will be taken care of, included in this contract. Another large portion in addressing the drainage concerns is the water pump station and upgrading storm drainage for mitigation of tidal flooding. We're also reconstructing the existing promenade along the south side of the roadway, adding some sidewalk on the north side of the roadway and upgrading curb ramps. And as I said, installing 3 pedestrian crosswalks with pedestrian hybrid beacons and also known as the Hawk systems. Those are the systems that we have recently installed on North Roosevelt. Of course, we'll be repaving and restriping the roadway and installing new signage and pavement markings. A lot of you may have seen this board in the back here, which we can go over with you individually or as a group. But for those of you online, this is one of the slides, and just make sure I didn't skip one. So on the left side of the graphic, it highlights the pump station, and then this is the eastern project limits. We also have some retaining wall construction, reconstruction, and promenade reconstruction throughout. This is on the west side by Bertha Street. So there was some hurricane damage at the bottom left there. So prior to that, we were addressing the retaining wall reconstruction, kind of just making that one continuous. There was a gap that we're closing up. And then you also see highlighted on the top of the graphic is the Hawk crosswalk systems. This is the proposed typical section of the western portion. At this location, you have the 2 lanes going eastbound to leave Key West, and you have 1 lane with the Shero. You also have the Shero on the eastbound lane. So this is the western, where we do have that merge into 1 lane. On the left side on the small inset is the retaining wall reconstruction. And then this is the eastern side, the eastern cross-section view, where we have the 2 lanes. So we have 4 11-foot lanes, as well as the Sheros on the outside lanes. This is an environmental slide. As part of the drainage improvements, we are installing that pump station. That does require a permanent easement for the installation of that drainage system. And that also requires permanent transportation use of the property for the pump station. So the portion of the bridle path will be temporarily closed during construction. However, once complete, the new installed drainage system will not interfere with the use of the bridle path. And then section 4F is kind of a technical terminology, but de minimis finding is anticipated. That's a minimum requirement of a project would result in a take or use from a section 4F property. This is a picture of the current conditions, which I'm sure a lot of us, if not all, are familiar with. Project rendering, completed roadway. This shows and highlights the Hawk system and the promenade on the south side of South Roosevelt. Maintenance of traffic is always an important aspect of our construction projects. There are no detours anticipated, but traffic will be reduced to 1 lane in each direction. So 2-lane, 2-way during construction. It's important to note that access to adjacent residences and businesses will be maintained at all times. However, that configuration might be a little bit different than what you're used to. Any additional lane closures will be during non-peak hours from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday, and 9:30 p.m. to 5 a.m. Sunday through Thursday, and that's on non-event days, nights, All right, back in action. Apologies for everyone here. All right, so maintenance of traffic, this shows the two-way, one lane in, one lane out. So this represents the first phase of construction where we're reconstructing the south side of South Roosevelt. And then moving on to Whitehead Street. And this is from Fleming to Truman. I think a question that we had last time is where do we expect the contractor to start? And the answer to that question is we're going to be starting on Truman Ave. And then if I go to this side, it shares the same construction start date. The duration is different. Typically, we wouldn't do that because this is one contract. So really the contract time is 800 days. But giving us that confidence is the incentive on this project specifically. So we're incentivizing the contractor up to a maximum of 120,000 to construct the project, start that on the first day of construction and get out of your way in 180 days. So that would bring us to summer 2023, and the estimated construction cost is about $2.6 million. The project scope of Whitehead, which is represented by the arrows here on those boards, replacing damaged sidewalks, repaving and pavement reconstruction, upgrading pedestrian signals, detectors, and ramps, as well as repairing and upgrading the existing lighting to LEDs, light emitting diodes. We're also updating signage along the corridor and restriping the roadway. And then for the benefit of those online, this is very similar, if not the same as the boards that we have here in person. Just a graphical and aerial overview of the improvements of Whitehead Street. Also beginning at Truman Ave and working our way north. High emphasis crosswalks here at the intersection is a major improvement. Currently, we don't have those. There are areas, especially at the intersections, where there's deficient pavement that we're going to get in there, rework the base, and reconstruct with solid material. And then here's the northern limits of the Whitehead Street at Fleming. So the maintenance of traffic is a little bit different given the different size and width of the roadway. Work will take place during the daytime, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., Monday through Friday. And then daytime closures of Whitehead Street in both directions are anticipated. Those will be limited to one block at a time. The intent is to get in there, get all the work done efficiently, effectively, and minimize the impacts to Whitehead Street and travelers and businesses along the corridor. At that time, temporary closure of some side streets will be necessary, of course. Pedestrian and vehicular detours will be clearly marked. Parking will be restricted within the work zone. Any additional required lane closures will occur on non-event days and during non-peak hours. That's always an important aspect of our construction projects, especially down here. Non-peak hours for this project are 9 a.m. to 4 p.m., Monday through Friday. The last in this area is the South Roosevelt portion over by the triangle, much smaller from the overall contract, about $1 million. So the limits from Go Lane to the triangle. And, with that limited, cost is much smaller scope for repaving and restriping the roadway, upgrading signage, pavement markings, and curb ramps. Also for this project, no vehicular detours are anticipated. Any lane closures, again, non-event days, nights and weekends. Non-peak hours, 9 a.m. to 3:30 p.m., 9:30 p.m. to 5:30 a.m., Monday through Thursday, excuse me. Access to residences and businesses will remain open throughout construction. And the last project is about $1.6 million, and this is on the frontage road along US 1, so really no impact to US 1 traffic, but certainly if there are any residences here tonight, they would be interested in this project. The project scope includes widening, repaving, and restriping the roadway, restoring the paved and unpaved shoulders, repairing front slopes along the north side of the roadway, including mangrove restoration, and upgrading all signage and pavement markings. So for this one, the maintenance of traffic, again, no lane closures or detours of US 1, lane closures along frontage during non-peak hours on non-event days, nights, and weekends, and those non-peak hours are 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., Monday through Friday. So daytime work only there. And then with that, I will turn it back over to Julie.
Hello, does this go? Can you all hear me? Okay. So another important aspect of these projects is community outreach. So I will be your liaison here. We are doing this public meeting. We did present to the City Commission last week. We've chatted with a lot of the different agencies and the stakeholders in town, and we have been door to door, some flyers. We have also advertised in the newspaper. We will be on US 1 Radio. Paulette, if you are already listening to her on Monday mornings, she'll be updating us as well. There are web pages on FDOTmonroe.com. Those along. You can also go to that website and sign up for email updates from me. The South Roosevelt and the Whitehead Street, those email updates are one and the same, so you don't have to double sign up. But when you go to those pages, project pages, you'll look to the left and there's a menu there. So click email updates and sign up so you make sure you stay up to date. We'll be out at the local events spreading the word as well. And then we have an extensive social media that we'll be making sure is posted on. And the main thing is we want to be proactive, consistent, and accessible to you all. So with that accessibility, here's my information. Make sure, you can find it on FDOTmonroe.com. Many of you already have it. That is my phone number, 305-927-1479. Or you can email me at julie.brown@exp as in Paul.com. That's JULIE.BROWN@EX as in X-ray, P as in Paul.com. And with that, we're going to start the questions and answers. If you all want to speak or have a question, make sure you fill out the speaker card, which Michelle will have over here. And then do you have cards now that have been filled out? All right, I'll take those. We do have people online, so if we have online questions, and again, make sure you come up to the microphone when I call your name to make sure everyone can hear you. Okay, so Nancy's going to unmute you and you would unmute yourself there online. We've got one person online, so we'll go ahead and answer that question.
David Mook, I'm going to unmute you. If you can unmute yourself so you can ask your question.
I was asking about the audio going out there. Sorry. That was my question. I couldn't hear you.
Were you able to hear us though?
Yeah, I can hear you now. You're back.
We're all good? All right. So I'm going to shuffle these up because no favorites here, no favorites. Okay. Kim Meadows. Kim, if you'll come up over here. And then, oh, well, you got 3 minutes. So choose your best ones. And if we've got time, we'll come back to you. But
I'm going to try to ask one. Nobody else going to ask.
Okay. And I'm just going to say, Tim Rose, you're in the batter's box. You're on deck.
Hi. So I live at Key West by the Sea, and it's my understanding from your program that the traffic there, once the project is completed, is no longer able to go to the left, but that we will all be going around the world to the right. Is that correct? I understand it's the no left turn lane, so we're not going to be able to come out of our complexes and turn left.
Yeah, I would ask these guys to add more detail, but I think we are discussing that. I think we've had some conversations with Paul and the rest of his crew there.
So one of the things I want to add to that, because I know Paul has great ideas, and so I don't want to take over his, but it seems to me that, when you look at all the traffic that comes out and currently turns left, and we're going to be diverted and we're going to be turning right, and we're going to get the quickest way off the island, which is to come around and come in front of Flagler, right in front of the high school. And I was wondering what, if any, contemplation or thought or notification you had given or feedback you had gotten from the high school and the high school parents about the fact that Flagler, where their kids cross the street and go to football games, is now going to have twice as much traffic on it. as it used to. So not only the high school, but also what, if any, improvements need to be done to Flagler if, in fact, all of our traffic that normally goes left down Roosevelt and off the island to Stock Island is now going to be rerouted onto Flagler. So that's my question.
Great question. Question before, design that's crossing a double yellow line, visiting the pavement marking plans and the signing plans at this moment to determine whether it's a absolute thing that we need to have on those driveways, or whether it's something that can be revisited as to whether those signs will exist or not.
Okay, so you've notified us as property owners, but has there been any notification out to the high school students and parents that pretty much, I mean, they're high school students and their safety, I'm sure they have safety concerns. I don't have a kid at the high school, but if I did, I would have safety concerns about the extra traffic.
I apologize for not having that answer right now.
That's okay.
We are the construction team, but we can certainly check with design and see what
It
outreach we
certainly is
did.
something that probably should be addressed if you haven't done it already. So I'm just throwing it out there. Thank
Absolutely.
you.
Appreciate that comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Tim?
I
That
have
you?
I
Come
have a
on up.
question from online.
Okay, we'll take the question from online while Tim.
Robert Childers, I'm gonna unmute you so you can ask your question. Go ahead. And unmute yourself online.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, no, I was looking at the
In case he's having
illustration
technical
you had,
difficulty, his
so-
question is the sidewalk 2 inches wide during construction?
No, 2 feet.
Robert, I
Of
think
promenade during
we're
construction.
breaking up a little bit on your side. I'm gonna re-ask the question. I think you were looking for the width during construction of the sidewalk.
Yeah, it looked like it was
So,
2 feet wide on the illustration. I just wanted to confirm that.
If I'm understanding the question, and forgive me if I'm not, I think on the promenade during construction, we'll have 6 feet of sidewalk width.
Okay, it just looked like the illustration had 2 10-foot wide vehicle lanes and then a 2-foot space for a barrier and then 2 feet for the sidewalk.
No, there shouldn't be 2 feet for sidewalk. Yeah, so that might be the space for the barrier wall. If you're talking about more the right side of that graphic, it might be an incomplete picture because it shows the promenade closed during construction, but that is going to be phased work where we maintain half of it.
Oh, okay. Like the road, you have half the road closed and you're working on the other half. Same on the promenade then?
Same approach with the promenade.
Okay, excellent.
To that, that's a very good question. As we all know, right in front of Smathers Beach, that sidewalk is heavily used. A lot of people park along there. We have bicyclists, we have scooters, we have vendors, we have a lot of activity going on there. So it's to do that is very complicated. Like George mentioned, we're going to try to do that promenade to whatever extent possible, half and half, meaning working on the roadside first and then maintaining traffic on the side where we have the wall and then flipping it over when we finish it. So we're going to try to get that done to every extent possible to maintain traffic there.
Thank you. Okay, we have Bruce and on deck Keith Pies.
Did we miss that?
No, come on up.
Tim.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I
That's
already?
okay.
Yep,
Yeah.
Tim Rose. I already flipped you. Sorry.
Ready? Tim Rose, Labrissa. Just a question, confirmation on the sidewalk on the north side. Does that start at La Brisa and go down to Key West by the sea, the entire length there?
I believe it starts, so the first property on the corner along Bertha there, is that La Brisa?
Yes,
Okay, so right in front of La Brisa, there is not a sidewalk going in there.
correct.
It starts a little further east, and it goes to approximately the pedestrian beacon that George mentioned, the Hawk, which is near Key West by the Sea, stops there, and then it picks up again for a small section on the east side of Key West by the Sea, their easternmost driveway, for a short period to encompass the last Hawk that we have to the east. And
you.
after the meeting, if you'd like, we can look at that on the boards that we brought, if you'd like.
Thank
I
you,
have
Tim.
an online question.
Okay.
Deanne, I'm gonna unmute you so you can ask your question. So you can ask your question.
Hi, hi, can you hear me now? I'm sorry about that. Actually, we live in Seaside, and there's a pedestrian crosswalk right out
Yes.
across South Roosevelt. And right now, as I mentioned in my note, my chat, putting using that crosswalk is like putting a target on your back. People speed, et cetera. Is anything going to be done about improving the signage or putting in some kind of traffic calming on that intersection or that crosswalk?
Just so it's a little clearer, I'm gonna read it off. Crossing in front of Seaside on right now, the crossing is a nightmare. Using the crosswalk is like putting a target on your back, it says.
Yeah, our project limits doesn't extend to Seaside. So we do not currently have improvements that we're aware of there, at least not with this contract.
Okay, Bruce, is that you? All right.
To, I think, reiterate in some way what Kim talked about, there's a secondary problem, and having lived there for a number of years now, the most violation of traffic is U-turns. And I guarantee you, if you can't turn left out of Key West by the Sea, there will be people that will pull right, pull a U-turn, and here we go. And there have been a number of incidents, a number of people getting hit there. I think one person died there 2 years ago. So I think that's the biggest single issue that we see from people who live there all the time. And thank you for the
All
time.
right. Thank you, Bruce. Keith? Keith, how do you say your last name? Hughes? Hughes. Oh, there's no G in there. Come on up.
And sorry, my question, I believe I need to direct more to the city of Key West. We produce endurance events, and I know Rob Childers does.
Mhm.
The email received yesterday, it seemed the decision was made to request that all endurance events be canceled during this time period, especially the triathlons, half marathons, and marathons. We're just coming out of being completely shut down. We wanted to address that.
We didn't send that out.
It did. It
Okay.
said we're recommending that. Yeah, it came from the Senate during this. Our alternate routes may cause a little more inconvenience around town, but I think I'd rather see those inconveniences happen than us being shut down for another 2 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next up, Dan Meadows.
Hello, I'm at Key West by the Sea. Name's Dan Meadows. Biggest issue I have is I'm not an engineer, but you're talking about raising the road 6 inches to 17.5 inches. Depending on the slope, obviously, water is going to go where it's going to go. It's going to go down the drains. You have a drainage system. In theory, that's perfect. That works. But this Key West by the Sea has been here for over 50 years. Nothing that I know of that there's ever been a flooding issue at Key West by the Sea. If that drainage system, you're raising the road, doesn't work, is the pump station supposed to help that? And if it does, what is the power source for that? And is there backup? And what if we find out later on, this is not working? How do we rectify that? So who do we go to?
Well, you call me and then I'll.
Yeah, you would go to us.
But that's the issue. It's like, I know you have thought about this, but we've never had an issue.
Yeah, so the pump station technology is not something, that hasn't been used before. It's a technology that's been here for a long time. The use of, on a lot of projects, we use French drain systems and allow the water to percolate at a higher level. But with the deep injection wells that we're using now for drainage, it will allow the pump station to pump that overflow into these deep wells. In theory, it should work. The system should work, and everything should work fine. That's what we're hoping for.
And do you have a different power source in case the first power source?
We have emergency generators that work, backup generators that work with the pump system, and we also have emergency outfalls into the pond right next to the pump station. So we have like kind of both things going on. Yeah.
Have you ever had this system on oceanfront property before?
I guess just to clarify though, I mean, the pump station is east, but the gravity, it's a gravity fed system out in front of the Key West by the Sea.
Okay, so is it sloping towards Key West by the Sea?
I mean, it'll be directed to the curb and gutter and then fed east to the pump station.
Okay.
So there's no pump required to get it from Key West by the Sea to the pump station.
Okay. And if that drainage, if it overflows, it can't handle that, what is the next? Is there a second? A backup?
It'll overflow to the pump station.
So it'll go east.
So everything goes east from Bertha Street to the pump station, and then on the east side of the pump station, it'll go west to the pump station.
So it won't go north?
Underground, underground.
Okay.
And then when it gets to the pump station and gets to certain levels, it'll pump into the injection wells, which are next to the pump station for drainage. And then as an backup, you have the overflow into the salt ponds.
And the question I'd asked before, have you done anything like this before on oceanfront property?
Yeah, downtown Miami, city of Miami Beach. There's plenty.
And then no issues with that.
I mean, it has an emergency generator too. I don't know if we mentioned that.
Yeah, he does. He has a backup. Also, it's important to note that these designs are done based on water generation. Imagine a Cat 5 or a large event. Obviously, that's not the intent. A large event will have water coming all around. So just make sure, keep that in mind. The systems are designed and intended for events, which are normal conditions.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Marcia Howard. And on deck is Dennis Hops.
My name is Marcia Howard, and I'm a resident at Key West by the Sea. And I understand that we're concentrating a lot on the bricks and mortar of this project, as we should. But I want to put in a word for the aesthetics along South Roosevelt Boulevard. If you look at the advertisements for Key West, they all show Smathers Beach, rows of palm trees, and a beach that looks like it goes on forever. We need to preserve this in this project. We need to be aware and sensitive to the aesthetics of this part of the island. I happen to believe that this is the prettiest part of the city of Key West. And so I would address, if there's someone here from the city, to please be involved in making sure that the landscaping is preserved and improved once this project is completed. My second comment is a reinforcement of what Kim has spoken about, and that is the left-hand turn. And I'm going to add another element to that. And we have a young, a middle-aged, and an aging population at Key West by the Sea. It is not uncommon to see an emergency ambulance or technical vehicle on our property. By having only a right turn, I believe we add a full minute, and maybe more so, to an emergency vehicle getting people transported to the hospital. This is a safety issue, and we need to be aware of it. And if the only reason the design calls for no left turn is because we have two solid lines on the highway, that seems to me to be a fixable problem. Thank you.
Hold on, you guys want to?
Yeah.
Listen to them.
Mrs. Howard, those are all great questions, fantastic questions, and we appreciate you being here tonight. I guess to your first question with respect to aesthetics and how beautiful our Smathers beach is, one of the things that makes that beach so pretty, nicer than almost any beach in the Keys, right, at Higgs and at Smathers, is the sand. So George mentioned in the presentation that we're closing in the seawall in those 3 missing areas. And I think we all remember during Hurricane Ian, I think we must have had to move, I don't know how many trucks of sand to the north side before we finally got it back onto the beach, which is a huge problem because you can't find this beach sand anywhere. And we need to keep our beach sand. So to your first point, I think the wall that we're installing along the promenade is going to do a great deal to maintaining that beach as nice as it is. To your point about the aesthetics, we are taking steps to protect all the coconut palms that we have along the north side, which are beautiful, gorgeous along the right of way there. We're putting in some temporary fencing around the canopies of those palms to protect and to preserve them. And then finally, I believe we answered the question about the left turn lane. Like you said, we're definitely going to follow up on that one and provide a response on that one.
Thank you, Marcia. Dennis, and on deck is Hugh Parks.
Hi, good evening. My name is Dennis Hops, resident at Key West by the Sea. And my question this evening is going to address the front of the property of Key West by the Sea. At the front of Key West by the Sea, there are 38 parking spaces, spaces for 12 scooters and bikes. And there's also a structure that's used right now by a real estate company addressing the Key West by the Sea itself, the highway. My question is, what steps do you take to mitigate any damage to the cars that are parked now on the front of Key West by the Sea and that building, and as well, any water damage that's going on during the construction?
Yeah, we did, Mr. Hops, thank you for the question. I think we did receive a similar question today. I think as it stands today, there's a small curb along the property, in the front of the property. I think the asphalt layers have been milled and paved over the years to now where there's just a little bit of a curb there. As part of this project, we're going to be installing a curb and gutter, an L-shaped curb and gutter along the edge there to retain the water along that edge. And that'll basically be in place of where I would say probably a little further to the south than where that curb is right now. So in other words, that travel lane going westbound will be a little bit further away from Key West by the Sea than it is right now. And then during the construction work, all the work that we're doing will take place within our right of way. There's no easements or no need to go into the Key West by the Sea property area to perform any of the work that we plan on constructing.
Okay. And again, just back to the vehicles, is there any consideration of that? Because at the front of 38 vehicles are parked right in front and a building. The protection of that during construction.
We don't anticipate any damage to vehicles. We're not really demolishing anything for the most part in front of that property. It's more reconstruction. We'll be excavating for drainage structures, things like that. So we don't really anticipate any damage.
Yeah, and to add to that, all the coconut palms that are in between the DOT edge of pavement, and Key West by the Sea, we're not even affecting those coconut palms. We're protecting
Okay.
those. So all our work will be on the south side of those
Okay.
existing coconut palms.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you. You? Oh, you? You
Hi,
passed?
Hugh Parks,
Excellent.
Key West by the Sea. My concern is that we have a one-lane road in front of Key West by the Sea. I don't know if your engineers have noted that Key West by the Sea is gated. We have a gate there on the entrance that is about 80 and 90 feet back. We have waste management trucks that go in and out of there daily, hourly, and we have U-Haul trucks. We have a number of trucks that go in and out. When they pull up to the gate, they may have to wait 30 or 40 seconds before the gate opens and they can get in. So if another car or two pulls behind any of these trucks, a third car now is sitting out in the one lane. So what happens is going to happen is traffic's going to back up there. Now, if you're a taxi driver and your livelihood depends on getting along that road, are you going to sit there and wait for the traffic or go around? So I don't imagine at this point you have any idea of changes to that. But my recommendation at a minimum would be to at least put a flashing sign there that says caution, right hand turn into property or something like that. It's going to be a problem there for traffic and potential, I think, accidents to happen where traffic trying to get in, cars trying to get in, back up onto the road. I don't know if you have any comments, but again, I would say at least a flashing sign out there for protection, maybe.
I mean, definitely, during construction is going to be a good testament, I guess, to everything we're doing. Because obviously during the first phase of construction, we're going to have one lane in each direction. So it's going to be challenging for all of us, for residents, for, for the people that provide services into Key West by the Sea, to use that one lane. But definitely when it's constructed, we'll have to keep an eye on it and that issue of the gated entry and all that and see what we can do. Possibly there's some signage that can be installed, but we'll definitely keep that in mind, your concern.
Right, thank you. But I would like to wait. I'd like to be proactive and get a sign out there before something happens. So if you put that in your notes, I would appreciate it. I have one more comment unless my 3 minutes are up. But and this has to do with the bike lane down at the corner of Bertha and Atlantic Ave down there. When you go around the corner on bikes, it's like traffic either way. And you can't see around the corner because there's bushes there. You used to have a yellow stripe around there to keep the people on either side of the road. That's dangerous right now. A year ago when you worked on the corner, you took the stripe out. The stripe is not there. So I would highly recommend almost immediately putting that corner stripe back in on the bike lane.
Where is the stripe? Where was the stripe at?
At the corner of Bertha and Atlantic Ave, that bike lane. It's dangerous because people are on the wrong side of that corner there. So my recommendation is, could you please get that yellow stripe back in?
As
We'll
they're
look into
going
it.
east, west?
Either way, people are on the wrong side,
Yeah, so
potentially on the wrong side.
So the important thing, I guess, to note is during the first phase of construction, we're going to wall that off. Coming from Bertha, there's going to be a temporary barrier going all the way around the corner to keep those 2 lanes of traffic in 2 lanes going eastbound. So, there'll be pedestrians on the promenade in that area, but obviously during Hurricane Ian was a major impact at that corner to where we're not even using the sidewalk same way we used to because we lost a big section we lost some during Irma, and then we had another washout during Ian that caused some problems right there at that corner. So I think what's going to end up happening during that first phase is at least the vehicular traffic will all be in the 2 lanes coming around the corner. They won't be so close to that promenade anymore. That's the intent of our first phase of construction.
Right, but the issue I'm talking about is bicycles going around that corner.
We'll look
Thank
into
you.
it. Just to
Again, it's a
confirm.
striping issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we get going too much farther, I do believe do we have someone online? Nope, not anymore. Okay, and I want to recognize Commissioner Carey. Yeah, she came in. Thank you for joining us tonight, our newest commissioner in the city. All right, next up is Bill Melchior. Are you all good? Okay. Amy Lay. And next up is Paul Schuessler. Did I say that right?
Hello, my question is actually in regards to the Whitehead Street project. And I know that we're not certain on exact times, but approximately how long do we plan on having each section closed? Ballpark.
You're mostly concerned about the Olivia Street in front of Hemingway. They run a catering business, so
That in front of Hemingway, it's probably going to take at least 3 weeks because of the rework of the base that we're doing.
Okay. All right, and then any idea on that side street as well? If that would be closed?
That will be closed, but we'll open it up at night. We'll open the intersection up at night.
Okay.
and you should still be able, you can access from Olivia Street side, right?
Yeah, I can come down the other way on Whitehead and turn onto Olivia.
And then I'm actually going to chat with Hemingway and see too, because they have that parking lot off of Whitehead.
Right.
So maybe we can figure
Perfect.
something out there.
Oh, yeah.
It's on our list to talk about. All right. Paul.
I'm Paul Schussler, Key West by the Sea, and I'd like to put a little context on this before we talk process. A week ago at the council, the committee meeting, the commissioners meeting, you made a presentation afterwards. We spoke to you. We went back to our people, our residents, Key West by the Sea, and we came up with a concerns list that I've got a copy of it here. And we were very fortunate today to get an answer to each of these concerns by Julie and the project staff. And I want to thank you very much for responding that way.
Thank you.
What I would ask now is that this and your answers be a matter of record, be posted in the minutes for this meeting so that we have that record going forward. Is that possible, Julie?
Yes. I would imagine, yes.
And those minutes will be available on the project website?
Yes.
So we can see them? Good.
Mhm.
Okay. Now, secondly, you know, Key West by the Sea, Labrisa is represented very well here, Margaritaville. We are the stakeholders in the project that you guys are performing right now. We're gonna benefit from the value of that, but we're also going to suffer from the unintended consequences that you hear, I think, by people today. So I'm going to ask a second thing. There are action items that come out, and I know the minutes are going to reflect some of that. But what I'd like to see is that we've made a very good step with the answers you gave us today and going forward and having that dialogue. I'd like to see that continue. In some way, I'd like to have a mechanism where we can vet some of the options you're coming through. How many people talked about no left-hand turn? I know you're going to look at options. Please let us, the community, help vet those options with you. So those consequences don't turn into real misery for us going forward. And again, thanks a lot. It's been very helpful.
Thank you. Thank you. Tina Wormuth? Nope. All right. Carl Klassen?
And if I could just respond to Mr. Schussler, we thank you for your comments and collectively getting the people that live in Key West by the Sea to help you with their concerns. It helps us make our project better, to have good communication, good lines of communication open with you. So we thank you for that effort.
Thank you.
If I may, I also just be patient. We try to provide response quickly. What we're trying to do is we're trying to go to designers, different divisions, traffic operations, safety. Right here is only the construction team. So sometimes we might take a little longer to reply, but believe me, we're working together to try to provide the best response. And obviously we'll keep you abreast of any changes.
And you'll let me know if I need to get back to you. All right. Carl.
Hi, my name is Carl Klass, and I also live at Key West by the Sea. A lot of the questions have been answered already, or the issues have been addressed. One very quick one. It talks about in the response today, and I've had an opportunity to go through the wonderful responses you gave Paul today. Thank you. It talked about the area of South Roosevelt in front of Key West by the Sea is only supposed to be raised approximately 6 inches. Is that at the height of the crown, or is that at the beginning of the Key West by the Sea driveway?
So basically, yeah, you can look at it from the crown because the cross slopes aren't going to be too much different than what they are now. The cross slopes on the pavement, so all of it's going to be raised approximately 6 inches. You're going to have a curb that's up a little higher because, as we talked about before, that curb is only sticking up in some areas. It's not, you can't see it, and in some areas it's up only a few inches. So you have to add that on top where you get to the edge of the roadway on top of that. So it ends up, we look across we provided a set as well to Key West by the Sea.
No, we've not received the full plans with the
Yeah,
cross sections yet.
it's a
We
huge
have-
file. It's a huge file.
Yeah, we've
but
asked for them.
yeah,
but
yeah. But
we
we
see some general cross.
Yeah.
Oh, did you? Okay. I didn't see
So
them.
yeah, if you look at those, you know, roughly 6 inches along that whole corridor, right in there, right in front of Key
Okay,
West by the Sea.
So it's an increase, but okay, my focus is at the driveways more than at the curb and gutter, because the concern we have obviously is the sheeting of the water as it comes in on the existing driveways. You said you're not going to do any work as part of the response at Key West by the Sea. How is that going to feather in or in some way work into those driveways? And then how is that drainage going to work with the Key West by the Sea drainage, for which, as people who've been there far longer than me have noted, has not been a problem in the past?
I mean, I'm just going to say a couple things with respect to the
Thank you.
drainage, and I'm going to take a shot at it. I didn't design the project, but having looked at the set of project plans, right now there's existing drainage inside the parking lots in Key West by the Sea. I think we noticed there's
we have the
yeah.
drainage we've had. Yeah, that's.
Yeah.
I'm more concerned with
Right.
the new DOT.
Well,
drainage.
yeah, so I'm starting with that. So there's some existing drainage in there. We talked a few minutes ago about the fact that there's really not a curb return where the water sheets off the center of US 1 at Key West by the Sea.
That's correct. I
So
agree.
right now we're going to have that curb and gutter, which will prevent a lot of that sheet flow from running into Key West by the Sea. And we all know that lane during the summer months is flooded. There's a lot of ponding along that lane on the north side. There's weeks that go by that you can't even use that lane. So having that curb and gutter along that edge is going to help retain some of that water so it doesn't go into Key West by the Sea.
That's great.
Secondly, when we raise a road up a little higher, we're going to berm it down and sod it so that we have almost like a berm along that side to stop some of that water from getting in. And then finally, to answer your question about the driveway and matching into that driveway, not a huge concern. Our harmonization in a 6-inch area over that sidewalk area that we have to. So if you look at it, if you cut like a section across the driveway from the ocean to Key West by the Sea, performing that harmonization work, as we call it, to tie that asphalt back in, it's not a huge lip to tie in. I mean, you picture a 6-inch area sloping back into the right-of-way line. It should be okay. And the drainage that currently works there now that ties into our drainage system is going to remain the same. So I think we're even proposing some drainage structures at the east end of Key West by the Sea, the driveway on the east end by the sea within our right-of-way, that will be a catch basin to also collect some of the stormwater as well from the parking lot.
I'll have to look at that. I'm very concerned, obviously, as along with other people's, how the increase in elevation is going to potentially sheet water using the driveways, not the curb and gutter, not the berm, but on those driveways, and how that's going to drain, and not into the Key West by the Sea drains, but the DOT drains that are being installed. They're just very curious about that.
Right. I think it would be appropriate. I mean, obviously, we're not starting with that work during our first phase.
Yeah.
At some point, I think it would be a great idea, Paul, for us to get together and have a meeting on site, and we could show you where we're putting these new drainage structures. We could show you exactly how we're tying in that asphalt in those driveways. And I think that it would be more beneficial than us trying to explain exactly how that's going to happen in this type of meeting. But we can go out there and show you some points of where all that's going to take place.
And one more follow-up question with that regarding drainage, and I'm sorry if I'm taking too long, but do the DOT engineers expect that we as Key West by the Sea in any way will need to modify our drainage system to accommodate the new drainage pattern provided by or being developed by DOT?
No.
We can get that answer on the record. I'd appreciate it. And then obviously, and then lastly, and if there is, we want to know. No, because we sure don't want to have a problem. That's what I'm getting at. I don't see any of us who are residents want to have a problem. If we've got to make modifications to work together, let's work together. Thank you for reconsidering that no left turn thing.
We'll look into it.
That's just a mess. I understand the MUTCD or whatever it's called and all that kind of stuff. There's got to be a way, as Marcia said, to fix a problem with 2 yellow lines and things like that. Also, if the problem is that new crosswalk just east of the driveway at Key West by the Sea, move it. You know, if there's a bus thing there, and that's about it. Nobody ever uses it, to my knowledge. It's a dilapidated mess. And I don't know why it was, I mean, maybe there's a reason to put it there, but just move it farther away. So it's not creating, if that's the problem. So, 2 more points. Residential neighbor, this is a residential neighborhood. I know we've got Margaritaville, the Old Sheraton, things like that. But between La Brisa and Key West by the Sea, this is a residential neighborhood. Thank you for keeping the speed limit at 30 miles per hour. And then the last question I have is, during construction, how are residential and hotel guests going to access across the road to the beach and promenade so that we can get to the beach and walk downtown? Thank you very much.
As I think George and Tony have said, we've got 3 temporary crossings at about the same location as where the permanent beacons will be placed, so that you'll have 3 places that you can cross and park on the north side and then walk over to the beach, or walk over from.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I have a question from online.
Okay. And
The question-
James Gillerin, you're up next. We're going to take this one from online as you come up to my.
The question is coming in from Tony Rodriguez, a property manager at La Brisa. What side of South Roosevelt will you be starting at, trying to get a scope on when you will be working in front of our complex?
We're starting work on the south side, and I think it's 1,500 feet section, and we have an expected duration for that specific. But so I guess duration, we'd have to follow up and coordinate with you, and through Julie, keep you updated on that duration.
I will be updating along
On
the
a
way.
weekly
Of
basis.
course, before we switch to the other side of the road, you'll all hear from me again. Make sure you're signed up for the email updates on the website. Good. All right. Jim, hello.
Good evening, Jim Gillerin, representing a resident of Key West by the Sea, and myself here in the city of Key West. I have some questions. First, I'd like to talk about the 3 Hawk crosswalks and their location in particular. They are bunched up mostly on the west, and people are going to be parking on the bridle path far to the east, I would assume. And I'm trying to understand why they're bunched all together and why there's no provision to have, if you're going to have them, what's going to happen? People are going to get very familiar with these, drivers in particular, as we are already on the other side of the Roosevelt. My anticipation is people are going to be driving down, they're going to be looking for people in these Hawk sites. If we don't have any of those further east, I'm trying to understand why not. Anybody have an answer to that? Is there parking on the bridle path to the east of the last Hawk?
So I think the Hawk furthest to the east is right where that bridle path is, where that overflow parking lot is.
Right, but there's further parking further east. So what you might consider is having that further to the end of that parking, because we're lazy here in Key West. We like to drink. We like to wander across the highways. No, in all seriousness, I would seriously think you would want to consider that 3rd Hawk being on the far side of your parking, just as a safety concern. We're going to be coming down that road and we'll be looking for those Hawks, and we're not going to be looking for people to cross. So
I think the issue with the Hawks to the west is that we do not have sidewalk right now proposed coming around Bertha all the way past La Brisa.
no, but
There's
I'm
no
mentioning
sidewalk proposed.
moving them one further east.
Further east.
Further east, because you're going to have people on the bridle path further east, and they're going to cross not at your Hawk.
I'd like to be able to look at that with you perhaps after this meeting.
Sure,
If you're going to stick around
sure.
for a minute, we could take some notes
Okay.
on your comments and.
Yeah, and they're great. We've all become accustomed to them. We talk about the turn coming out of Key West by the Sea heading east. And is there a trip generation study? How many people are coming out and turning left?
We would definitely have to get back to you on that.
Okay, well, that's not fair, because you should have that. You should have that before you change the traffic pattern.
I'm not saying we don't have it. We'd have to
Okay.
follow up with you to make sure that we
Is
do.
it 100 cars? Is it 200 cars that are coming out there?
To be fair, Jim, the traffic ops did do a study
Right.
before they did this. We are construction though, so that's something we'd have to get back to you.
Yeah, but did it take into account the number of vehicles coming out of Key West by the Sea and traveling east?
We would have to get back to you. 'Cause
That's not, well, then you don't do a design without, I don't, anyhow. Sure, you could, but if you've got 100 cars programmed to head east, coming out of Key West by the Sea on a daily basis, you multiply that, you got to think about that before you change the traffic pattern. You know, these Hawk missile things are great too, because if people are allowed to come out and turn left, they're going to be a traffic calming situation. People generally slow down a little bit when they see these. So we're always thinking about pedestrian safety. The last thing I'd like to comment about that, you're coming out and you're turning left. You can't turn left. You're 100 cars a day or 300 cars a day, or nobody knows. Nobody here knows. I don't know. And you're forcing them to go the opposite direction and then go out of town. May sound pretty ridiculous, but you're adding to the carbon footprint. Making people go down Bertha. I don't even know who's responsible for Bertha, but I think it's the county. Right, so I don't know if the county thinks it's a great idea, but you're forcing people to go down Bertha. You go around, and somebody mentioned the high school, and that's always a concern. So I'm convinced that between those three reasons, you should allow people to continue what they've been doing forever, not take away their ability to head out to the hospital or head out of town, and also to enjoy to enjoy the beautiful promenade y'all are building. Telling me I can't come out of there and look at the promenade. Well, I can if I walk, but I already mentioned I'm lazy. So I'm gonna get in my car and I gotta go right. If I want to see the beach, I gotta go right around. So please take those three things into consideration. And I'd really like to see a trip generation study, because you might be just adding to a problem by trying to solve a problem, which seems to be a couple of stripes in the roadway. And I'm sure you can do it. And why don't we get together and figure out where the furthest hawks should go to make sure the pedestrians are safe on that side, because they won't go to them if they have to walk. You know, it needs to be like, I would think it would need to be sandwiched in. And thank you for your time.
Thank you. Good. Al Romano, and then on deck, Bill Lay.
Good evening. My name is Al Romano. I have property at Key West by the Sea. I lived there for a number of years and I still own property. I live at Seaside now. What you're saying with your no left lane is that if someone from Key West by the Sea wanted to go out the driveway and go across the street to the beach, they would have to go around the island. They cannot cross the street to go and park along the beach. I know you're not going to be convinced to have 2 lanes there, but in all the years I've been there, we've always crossed 2 lanes, and which I believe have double yellow lines in the middle right now, okay, to make a left-hand turn. It's a lot easier to cross 1 lane and make a left-hand turn than cross 2. The other thing about your parking stop walks, and this is just a personal question, is who designed that you have blinking red lights in the walk, okay, which people are prepared to stop for. Then they turn to blinking yellow when people are about to cross. Then they turn to solid red. You need a different color palette. Thank you.
Thank you. Bill? And on deck is Karen Badgett.
Thank you, gentlemen, for coming here and doing this, by the way. I appreciate it. I'm talking on behalf of the business community, something that my lovely wife touched on earlier. I'm going to give you a little bit more information. I'm not sure if you're aware or not, but Key West is one of the biggest wedding destinations in the country, one of the top 3. Hawaii, Las Vegas, we're always in a conversation. April and May are the busiest wedding months of the year. I, being in the catering business, and I'm not alone, there's 4 other catering companies in town. Some of us have, and I'm sure you're no stranger to heavy equipment, some of us have food trucks, which in itself is a piece of heavy equipment, and that's how we execute our contracts. Our contracts are written out usually a year ahead of time. The reason I tell you that is that when we had this conversation, I looked up on my phone, I currently have 13 weddings at the Hemingway House in April, and I'm just one catering company. So, and Hemingway House happens to be the most popular wedding destination and that's no, I know you said you're going to talk about it, but I just need you to have that information in your mind because the 3 biggest months are November, April, and May. Those are the 3 biggest wedding months in the city of Key West, which is fantastic. I love the fact you're doing this work. It's going to look great. I love what you did on the other side by the Audubon House. It's fantastic. But you might want to keep that in consideration. And the biggest problem is Olivia Street, because Olivia Street is the only access we have to Olivia Street, which heads, I believe, north or east. Please forgive me, I'm not an engineer, is from Whitehead. If we take our vehicles any further down into the Bahama Village area, as you all know, our streets are very, very tiny. There is no way we can turn trucks down there without causing a problem. We really can't go any further than Whitehead Street. So just keep that in mind when you have the conversation. Just to let you know, I am available. If you want to talk to me or any other operator in the catering business, I'd be more than happy to sit down with you and go through this stuff and show you what we do. You know, we want this to work, but we want it to be without affecting our clients. That's all I have.
No, we appreciate your comment, and obviously, I mean, just to give you an idea of the major work that we have to do on Whitehead. If you've noticed when you're driving down Whitehead, we have a lot of pavement that's settled, and we have a lot of spots that are cracking, and there's old infrastructure underground, and the asphalt's, you know, getting to that time where you have to replace it. So there's areas along Whitehead where we have to reshape that road for the entire width of the road. And so it's quite a bit of work to be able to accomplish that. The good thing is we're going to do most of that work in the daytime. And I don't know how it correlates to weddings. I'm attending 2 within the next 2 weeks here in Key West, and I hope I see you there. But most of the work will not take place on weekends. I'm sure you have weekends that are during the week as well, but I think it's good for you to know that we're not going to be working nights and weekends on Whitehead.
Beauty of Key West is that Tuesday is also a Saturday.
Yeah.
It's also a Saturday. We believe it or not, we have weddings on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays because when people come down here, our guests come down here, it's for a week. It's not for an event and then they're gone. They come here for 4 or 5 days. They enjoy, you know, the ambiance and the pleasure of Key West. Operationally, the way it works specifically at the Hemingway House, I must have access. Keep in mind, as a caterer, and it's not just caterers, photographers, rental companies, everybody, we need access at between 7 a.m. and I think it's 9. Is it 9 or 9 o'clock in the morning? That's where we set up. We leave. The weddings usually start at 5:30 in the afternoon, which means that as I love to cook. I don't know if you can tell by my attire. I'm going back to the kitchen when I leave here, but that takes time. So we usually pull our trailers down there about 3 or 3:30. It's just like every other business. Every other business survives on access, and we just need access to that point. If that means moving a sign, us pulling in and then pulling the sign back, I'm in on that all day. As long as we have access to fulfill our contracts, that's it. I went over my 3 minutes. I'm sorry.
Just to add, we will have a 2-week look ahead. Our PIO, our team will be on site. We will definitely look ahead 2 or 3 weeks to ensure if there's any events and we can move a task, especially in those areas, we will definitely do that. But access will be maintained at all times. Even for big trucks, we understand how the industry mobilizes, and we will maintain those accesses at all times. But Julie and the team will be available to try to shift if there's an opportunity to shift any activity, depending on any major event. But we're here to make sure that we understand. And we can plan these ahead easily 2 or 3 weeks ahead of any activity. So we could do
Great.
that.
Again, thank you for doing this. And while you're digging, if you find Bum Fardo, let us know.
I just want to mention one thing, Bill, the reason I emailed you and Amy about this meeting is because I knew you would have that concern. And I have reached out to Hemingway House and some other catering businesses as well, knowing that this would be a concern. We are doing block by block. This isn't the first block that you'll be doing. So hopefully by April, we'll be off in the distance and not even impact. But I know you have concerns before then. So I'll be happy to connect with you. You guys have my contact information, and we'll set up a meeting and sort of set a plan. All right. Thank you. Karen Badgett. And on deck is William. Ooh. You're good? Tell me how you say your last name, though. Is it Shrink? Shanky. All right. Okay. Hi, Karen.
Hi, I'm Karen. I have a business on Whitehead. And I remember when you guys did the first section of Whitehead, it was definitely not easily accessible to pedestrians at most times. And the section that I am at, I do have a lot of pedestrians coming in and out of my business all day long. And a lot of them are elderly and do have need wheelchair access. And I was just curious if that was in the plans at all as far as providing something for handicapped people.
Yeah, so we are definitely maintaining sidewalk access on one side of Whitehead or the other at all times.
Okay.
Just to let you know, the difference between this Whitehead project and the Whitehead that went from Fleming to Front and went all the way around was the city was installing a brand new water main down the center of the road,
Okay.
which is very difficult to do and very difficult to maintain traffic on that road.
Yeah.
So I know some of the streets were closed down 24/7. The amount of sidewalk that we're doing along there is mainly the curb ramps on the corners and in areas along the corridor itself. We have some sidewalk that's settled or cracked. So we're doing like spot pieces. It's not a full sidewalk reconstruction project.
Okay.
Like I mentioned before, a bulk amount of the work is the pavement that we have to reconstruct so that we can add some sustainability to that pavement that's there.
Okay.
And then some pedestrian crossing improvements. I think George had mentioned that we're installing there with push button crossings and high emphasis crosswalks and that type of thing. But the intent is to maintain, pedestrian traffic. Like Felix mentioned and Hector, we try to stay ahead of the activities that are taking place. We work with our contractors' schedules and we try to publish, information where we're going next ahead of time so that you can be prepared for it.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I have one more question too. If anything is going to be blocked on the sidewalks, I know in the past somebody provided signage for the businesses that are on those blocks. Is that going to be available as well?
We usually don't have, I don't think we have the pay item on this contract to have business per se, a business name sign.
Okay.
But we've discussed maybe we're affecting an area longer than expected. We might put just one big sign that says all business open.
Okay.
But we'll look into it, but I don't think we have.
Okay, no problem. I just thought that maybe.
For business sign, maybe perhaps if we're affecting too long, something unexpected happened, we might put something up. But I personally don't think we're gonna be more than 2-3 weeks affecting a single section. It's just not.
Okay.
The type of work that we're doing, like Tony just said, we're not reconstructing the mayor, we're not putting water main, we're not putting drainage. It's mainly reconstructing the sidewalk to ensure ADA compliance, and that's pretty much it.
Great, thank you. Because I just remember walking down on the other end, and I'm like, oh, that's gonna be crazy.
So your business is on Whitehead?
It is.
If you could share that address,
On
maybe
the
we
cross
could,
street of Angela and Whitehead at 625 Whitehead.
maybe one of our team members can swing by your business one
Cool.
day next week
I would appreciate
and
that.
explain to you kind of more or less what's happening right in the immediate vicinity of 625 Whitehead.
Perfect, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Brian Cordette. I hope you're going to bring it, Brian. You're the last. You got to go out. Bang.
Well, you did the right thing to have me last because 3 minutes would be nothing. But did you say earlier, just about everything has already been dealt with, but a couple of questions. Did you say earlier that Topina and Sons are a contractor here?
That is correct.
For your information, the Topina company, as you know, done an awful lot of work here, including the construction of a major part of the construction of Key West by the Sea. And we have never had a problem with our concrete at Key West by the Sea because of the work that they did. So we have to be confident that if they're going to be doing work in front of our homes. Two minor questions to ask. You've dealt a detail with the pumping of stormwater. Could you please tell us how far east from our exit is the pumping station? I know we won't see it because it'll be underground, but how far east is it?
I mean, if you're going to stay after the meeting for a few minutes, we can just walk right over the board and we can tell
Well,
you
I've looked on-
exactly how many feet it is away from the east entrance there.
That's
or the
perfect,
west
because I
entrance.
looked at the board and I couldn't really tell.
I'll give you the response as soon as we adjourn.
Good.
The
The
drawing-
second little bit of information, you talked about our wonderful little disappearing curb in front of the building and in front of our property. Well, you are going to build a raised curb with a storm drainage system in it. Can you explain to everybody how far from that dilapidated curb the new curb will be? Will there be property in between and something done in that area?
I think the best thing there would be to, when we do our site visit, we can include you in that and kind of give you a couple little marks in the road to show you where that new edge of roadway is going to be in relation to the existing roadway. That'd probably be the best thing
Well,
to do.
that's a very good suggestion. I know that there's going to be a distance between the dilapidated curb and where you're going to construct the curb, but most people here don't understand or haven't heard that that's the case. So that meeting would be very helpful. And of course, you'll deal with our board at Key West by the Sea. Our president, Marlene Durazo, is here. And really the person that you've been dealing with most is Paul Schuessler. And he's done an excellent job. And we really, from Key West by the Sea, owe him a round of applause for what he's done.
Thank you. Thank you.
I wrote down everybody's name, but I didn't write your name, and I'd like to get it down so I can include it when we do meet out on site, on the job site. What was it? Okay.
All right. Okay, well, that's all the cards I have. Commissioner Carey, did you want to say anything before we, okay, come on up. Sure. Yes, we have people online, so you have to speak into the microphone.
Thank you. I just wanted to thank you guys for communicating with the residents and thank you guys for showing up. Paul has done a great job. He's been in touch just to make sure that, we all understand what you guys need. So I am always available. It's great to have that one point person though. So, it's helpful if you can run things through him and that's it. I just want to thank you guys, for the relationship and for what everyone's doing. So appreciate it.
Thank you, and thank you for joining us tonight. All right. Anyone else online? All right, there's no one else online. We always,
Last but not least,
I'm good.
I have a deep voice, so. I just had one quick question. I was just sitting here thinking about these flashing lights and everything. Have you guys checked with the DEC about whether the turtles are going to be affected by this light stuff going on and everything else? So just thought I'd throw that out. Bill Melchior, Key West by the Sea.
We will definitely look into that and get back to you. There's shielding around these, the way these hawks are built. You see the ones on North Roosevelt. All the lighting, the LED lighting, it's low level LEDs with a tunnel shield all around the light. But we'll definitely look into that and figure it out because that's definitely an important topic that we talked a little bit about earlier.
Thank you. And FDOT always asks us to wrap it up with a safety message. So work zone safety is everybody's job. Be aware of workers while driving through an active work zone. Again, we will all be here for a little bit. So if you have any specific questions and if you all need my contact information, again, is on all the paperwork that you have, cards out front, and I'm here too if you need me. So thank you all for coming out tonight.
Pump station.
Did you?